After a day and a half of Yuri Prohashka style meditation, these are my UFC Saudi Arabia full card predictions and betting breakdown. I'm ready to talk about the fights, so make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe, turn the post notifications on, and make sure you share the video too. And also note, 9 a.m. Eastern time Saturday, I'll be doing the full card fight companion for UFC Saudi Arabia. Make sure you guys tune in, and let's start the predictions off. First fight of the night, Abdul Karim Al-Selwady versus Bolaji Oki. I'm going to pick Bolaji Oki. He's coming in on short notice, but I feel like 29, up-and-coming contender, he's got to be staying ready all year. I expect him to still be in pretty solid shape for the matchup. And it's a massive shift in stylistic matches for Al-Selwady, who was scheduled to fight against Jordan Levitt. With Levitt, you have pressure wrestling and essentially no serious threat on the feet. Whereas on Oki's side, violent knockout power, explosive, high-caliber athleticism, and good precision with his boxing. I think it's easy to, I don't know, kind of write Oki off because of a subpar debut win against Kawamba and then him losing to Chris Duncan last time. But to be fair, look at the stand-up. He was beating up Chris Duncan. He was hitting him hard. He was busting him up. I honestly think that it was one of those just perfect defensive counter submissions by Duncan that just locks Oki in, the front headlock guillotine, done. Fight ends in round one, but Oki was dominating the fight up until the guillotine. I think Bolaji Oki is still a good prospect, and I don't feel ready to write him off. Now, Al-Selwady has decent wrestling. He's got a good gas tank. He brings some pressure, but overall, though he comes from like an amateur Muay Thai background, I feel as though his boxing is meh. His kicks are nice. Kind of reminds me of Bilal Muhammad at times with his movement. He has decent movement from the outside, pretty snapping kicks, but overall with his hands, he's at a disadvantage. Oki is vastly superior with his punching skills and has a clear knockout power advantage. I do believe Bolaji Oki is going to catch Al-Selwady. Last fight, Al-Selwady was chinned by Loik Rajabov with a looping shot over the top in the third round. Now, of course, the fight had set in and maybe there was some fatigue as well for him. It was a back and forth with Rajabov. But getting cotton chinned by Rajabov in striking would make me very wary of the power of Bolaji Oki. This is a hard matchup for Al-Selwady on the feet. Now, if he's able to consistently land takedowns and control Oki, I think that's his best path to victory. But what's the likelihood? Let me pop out the Zin. I think that Oki has relatively good grappling defensive skills, and I also think being a freak athlete, his hips will be on point. I see solid takedown defense, and I see Al-Selwady being forced into a bit of a survival mode, being forced backwards in the striking realm. Oki needs one big shot to put him out. Don't write him off because of subpar performances. The dude is still a sensational powerhouse with a lot of promise right now. I'm going to pick the side of Oki, but I recognize this is more of a 50-50 fight than the odds will have you believing, because as of right now, Bolaji Oki minus 183 I'm seeing here as the favorite, with Al-Selwady at plus 158. So moderate size favorite for Oki, who, you know, has a couple of UFC fights with Al-Selwady only having one. Both guys are Contender Series winners. Minus, what, 250 for the over? I sense a finish if it's Oki winning. Now, if Al-Selwady wins, I feel like it would be more of a pressure wrestling attack and then Oki gassing out. I don't know. Bolaji Oki has kind of that freak explosiveness, right? Like David Onama is just able to get out of weird positions because he's such a good athlete. I feel like Oki is actually a bit sharper of a blade technique-wise than Onama, but brings a very similar type of explosiveness with his striking attack and movements. I'm going to say Oki can find Al-Selwady's chin. I'm just not confident that the Pride of Palestine can take a clean shot from Oki, especially when Oki is going to look to throw hard throughout the whole fight. His style is knockout punching. He's got a massive 1-2 that'll drop. He's got big hooks. His precision seems to be there. He was outstriking Chris Duncan until obviously getting caught in the submission. I'll say Al-Selwady gets outstruck too. He needs this fight on the ground. If you're Al-Selwady, you're shooting early, because mixing it up on the feet, regardless of how good Al-Selwady's kicking game is, if there's a clean beam down the center, I think Oki drops him. So I'm going to go with the knockout puncher. I'm going Bolaji Oki, and I do think he'll start to build a bit of momentum. He seems to be promising. Next fight on the card, Hamdi Abdelwahab returns. He takes on Jamal Pogues. Hamdi Abdelwahab is a former Olympic Greco-Roman wrestler. He's kind of forgotten because he was out of the UFC for a few years, right? 2.5. So 2.5 years he was out. And the reason was because he got suspended for some PEDs, man. He got suspended initially after that fight against, wow, I'm losing the name here, Dontel Mays. And then he actually got suspended again when the new drug testing came in, and he tested positive for like exogenous testosterone. This was what, July 2024? They pushed him an extra 6 months. So he's ready to come back now, February 1st. Now he's eligible to fight. I'm picking him to win. First thing, I'm going to say that. I am picking Hamdi Abdelwahab to win the fight. It's not a good look that he's tested positive for PEDs on multiple occasions. We're also in Saudi Arabia, though. I'm not trying to make any unfair assumptions, but I don't know if an American testing agency is commonly going to be, frequent in Saudi as much. I also think that either way, Abdelwahab's skill set seems to be hard for a Jamal Pogues. Abdelwahab's got good wrestling, but he also has heavy hands. And when you look back on his debut, you actually got to look at the positives. Like, he was rocking Dontel Mays in the first round. And he was able to beat him in his debut after having just a handful of MMA fights. It's been 2.5 years. Was he not training during the time off? I think Abdelwahab could come back with an even better skill set. And beating Dontel Mays, who's what, 6'7", 6'8", 6'6", I guess technically. But like, he's up there. He's a giant. Now Hamdi Abdelwahab is fighting someone like more normal sized, Jamal Pogues, who's okay. He's got quick hands. Jamal Pogues is decent with his boxing, right? On the outside, he can snap some shots. Takedown defense is not bad, but he was on his back with Petersen a bit. He got outstruck clearly by Mick Parkin. And then he has that decision against Josh Parisian. He's a former light heavyweight. He's like one of those chubby light heavyweights that kept the weight on and then moved up to 265, whereas Abdelwahab is just a naturally thicker person. I think Abdelwahab is going to pressure Jamal Pogues. I definitely think he gets him to the ground. I feel like he could be live to rock Jamal on the feet. I feel like he could get a TKO, especially looking at the first round against Dontel Mays. He cracked him with some big shots. I feel like Hamdi Abdelwahab should win this fight. I still think he's a decent enough prospect. And I mean, a debut against Dontel Mays and winning it is kind of impressive to me. I thought it was a clear win. It ended up being a split decision, but I thought he got at least 2 rounds. And now he's fighting Jamal Pogues after time away from the game. But for a developing fighter, it could be time spent improving on the skills. I know the drug test failures are not a good look. And I'm not trying to make assumptions that he's still on him. I don't know for sure. We'll see the weigh-ins. If he looks like he's, granted, he never had a great physique anyways, but if he loses all fullness in his muscles, then maybe it's a problem. If he looks just as fat, but he weighs in at 245, then it's an issue. But if he shows up relatively similar to what we saw in the debut, comes in shape, not on short notice, you guys forget too, he fought Dontel on 12 days notice and he beat him. That's impressive. Jamal Pogues, I'm not sure is Dontel Mays' level. I think Dontel could beat Jamal Pogues. I think Hamdi's going to win this fight. I think he's going to dominate this fight. If he's still fighting to the level of the Mays win, definitely. But what if he's a good amount better? I mean, he's been fighting MMA for a while now. Granted, he hasn't been actively fighting recently, but he's in the training room. You know, he's putting in work. Greco-Roman wrestler with decent power. And just his 4th pro fight. It's his 6th if you include, bare knuckle fights last time. Now coming into this one, I think Abdelwahab's got the fight, and I was surprised at -110. I was surprised at that. It was even a bit of an underdog. Jamal Pogues is a decent athlete, decent hands, but not like a real heavyweight. He's a blown-up light heavyweight. I think Hamdi Abdelwahab is going to be able to body him in wrestling, and I think on the feet, we could see Hamdi crack Jamal Pogues. The worry about Abdelwahab would be round 3. He got tired against Mays, but 12 days notice, though. I think it goes under, plus 195. I'm feeling like Abdelwahab TKOs him. I think he rocks him with a big shot and then ground and pound. I'm going Hamdi Abdelwahab to win. He's kind of like the forgotten heavyweight that had like a bit of hype, a couple years back. Now coming after the drug test failures. Of course, we got to be hesitant. We got to see the weigh-ins. We got to check out how he looks. But if he looks any bit similar to before, fighting-wise, I think he runs through Jamal Pogues, especially with a full camp coming in shape. I think Abdelwahab is going to be rough, man. He's got good wrestling. And right now, there's a lot of mid wrestlers at heavyweight. This is a Olympic Greco-Roman wrestler. He should run Jamal Pogues over. I think he's going to beat the shit out of him. So I'm going Abdelwahab to get a finish in the second fight on the card. Let's keep running. Next up, Bogdan Grad versus Lucas Alexander. I'm picking Lucas Alexander. I was surprised Bogdan Grad was the favorite coming in. He was a bigger favorite. It's come down because I think people recognize Alexander's got the goods. On the feet, Lucas Alexander is super slick and precise, and he has good power. Oh my gosh, but he lost to Jekasarihi. Go rewatch the fight. He was beating him up. And then weird sequence where he goes down, right? He gets up to his feet, and he's like turned and gets caught with the knockout shot and some ground and pound strikes. It's a fluke, okay? I hate to be coping like, oh, it's a fluke. Oh, come on, bro, cope. But let's be real. The Saragi fight, he just got caught with the wildest of sequences and got put to sleep. Lucas Alexander in the fight before took on longtime MMA vet Steven Petersen. He beat the shit out of him for 3 rounds. And his debut was against Joanderson Brito. I feel like Lucas Alexander has got a real nice chance to sleep Bogdan Grad. Grad was in a tooth and nail war with Michael Aswell on Contender Series. The year before, he got destroyed by Tom Nolan in the first round on Contender Series. I still got question marks around his chin. Alexander is slicker. Alexander is more precise. And I think that he's going to probably put Bogdan Grad to bed. His accuracy is there. Lucas Alexander has had a rough 3 in the UFC, but he's 3 fights deep in the UFC. This is a debut for Bogdan Grad. He's fighting in Saudi Arabia after before fighting at the Apex twice. I think Lucas Alexander is going to give him the business. I think he's going to beat him up. He's going to be cleaner on the feet. Snappier with his hands for sure. He's got quick kicks too. When you watch Lucas Alexander strike, go watch the Steven Petersen fight. You're like, damn, this dude's got a lot of ability. And then the Jekasarihi fight, it falls apart, but he was looking really good leading up to getting caught. I don't think Bogdan Grad's catching him. I think Bogdan's getting chinned. He lacks head movement. And Alexander's too quick. Lucas Alexander is being slept on here. Now the odds are even, so maybe people are starting to sense it. He opened up at plus 170. Grad at minus 110. I'm going Lucas Alexander. And I think Lucas Alexander can get the KO. Under 2.5, minus 105. Now, respect to Bogdan Grad, because I don't want to just, seem like I'm trashing him. He put up a good fight on Contender Series and beat Aswell in a tooth and nail back and forth. One of the best fights of the season last year. But he got hit a good amount. There's vulnerabilities. Alexander is now a 3-fight UFC vet. He's precise with his stand-up. And I don't think Bogdan Grad has too much of a wrestling option here. And I got to go with the slicker, faster, and cleaner striker. More powerful striker. More precise striker. Grad's stocky, Muay Thai, tight, explosive. But he doesn't have the fluidity like Alexander does. And I think Alexander with the speed is going to find the target and put Grad to bed. So I'm going Lucas Alexander to knock Bogdan Grad out. And it's a featherweight fight too. So let's see if Alexander can make 145 or 46 even, because last fight he missed weight, but was a year ago. We'll see. I like Lucas Alexander's ability, man. He's lucky he didn't get cut from the UFC after that Saragi loss, especially after missing weight. But I think he's a promising talent and winnable fight here against a debuting Grad. Let's jump to the next one. The ladies going after it in the next one. Jasmine Jasudavicius and Myra Bueno Silva. I'm going with Myra Bueno Silva. I think she wins. Jasudavicius is a good pressure wrestler. I understand. But Jasudavicius has never beaten anybody to the caliber of Bueno Silva before. Bueno Silva, 2 fights ago, fought for the bantamweight belt. Now she's dropping to 125, and she's a big underdog, too. Against Jasudavicius, I feel like she's getting counted out completely. Jasudavicius still took an L to Tracy Cortez, who's got decent wrestling. What? She's got a nice 3-fight win streak, but dig into it. Cachoeira's pure striker. Klein's debuting on short notice, and Ariane Lipski's never been a good grappler. Bueno Silva has crafty jiu-jitsu, but she's not bad in stand-up. She's got good Muay Thai. She's got nice teeps up the center. She can mix it up on the inside. She's a strong girl. She's just going to get wrestle-fucked by Jasudavicius. That's what people think is going to happen. Bueno Silva's got good back takes. She's elusive with her jiu-jitsu game. She's got a submission threat that she's bringing to this fight. Yeah, she's lost 2 in a row, and I understand. Last time it was a doctor stoppage. You remember the elbow from Chiasso that split her in half? It was brutal. But she won the first round, and she looked good in the first round. She looked championship form in the first round. Dropping back down to 125, as long as the weight cut doesn't kill her, I feel like she's going to thrive against Jasudavicius. Jasudavicius is good at beating the unranked or the lower levels of the rankings. Like, she beat Miranda Maverick, but Miranda Maverick's not that good, man. Overrated athlete. And then you see Tracy Cortez beat her. Natalia Silva's beaten her. On the regional scene, she even lost to Elise Reed, but that's kind of irrelevant. She is fighting a former title challenger from a division up, but we know Bueno Silva at one point was fighting at 125. She lost to Manon Fiorot, then moved up. I think Bueno Silva is going to be crafty. I'm going with Mayra Bueno Silva. I don't think Jasudavicius can use that physicality edge, right? Bueno Silva's used to these big girls at 135. Jasudavicius normally can outmuscle a lot of these smaller girls at 125. That's not here. Inch in height difference, not much. Bueno Silva, strong. I think she's a tough Brazilian with good jiu-jitsu, good back takes, and the stand-up game matches up. Jasudavicius got a nice pace, though, and she does have good wrestling. But I think Bueno Silva's live to win by sub, man. I'm going with Bueno Silva. I think decision or submission would be like the official method of victory picks. She locked up Holly Holm a year and a half ago, and it's a forgotten W that's now a no contest. But I feel like that's still something we got to respect. It's like write her off because she lost to two of the best bantamweights. Pennington, who many felt beat Pena, and then Chiasson, who's pretty good and also freakishly tall for the weight class. I'm going Bueno Silva for the upset. Plus 195 doesn't make sense to me. Bueno Silva's in her prime. She's younger than Jasudavicius. Plus 195? Nah, the odds for this fight should be similar to the other two you're seeing below. They shouldn't be plus 195. That doesn't make much sense to me. That's wide, man. That's no respect for the Bueno Silva line. Jasudavicius, minus 230, over 2.5, minus 340. Bueno Silva might lock up a sub. We'll see what the sub line looks like later on in the week when they drop it. We'll talk about it then. But as of right now, I think Mayra Bueno Silva to win. Submission is live. Decision is live. She can mix it up on the feet with Jasudavicius for sure. I think she can do well stopping the wrestling pressure. I know it's quality wrestling from Jasudavicius, but not hyper elite. And Bueno Silva fighting up in weight against bigger girls and doing well. Fighting for a title, going tooth and nail with Pennington, getting Pennington's back. She couldn't win the decision here, getting the back of Jasudavicius, taking 2 out of the 3 rounds. I'm going Mayra Bueno Silva. I think she wins. I think she definitely gets Jasudavicius' back. Does she lock in the sub? That's the iffy part, because at the end of the day, Jasudavicius never submitted. And normally, pretty good defensively with grappling too. We're going Bueno Silva. Let's see what happens. I like this fight a lot. Underrated as hell. Underrated ladies fight. 1,000%. Let's keep running. Next fight in the card, we got Faraz Ziam versus Mike Davis. I'm going with Mike Davis. He's actually like one of the most forgotten lightweights on the roster. Only UFC loss is Gilbert Burns. And since then, he's won 4 fights. He's not actively fighting. He's just dealt with injuries. But when you watch him fight, he's impressive. He's extremely well-rounded. Striking game, he's got power for sure. He's pretty quick on the feet. He's fought in pro boxing too. Good jiu-jitsu. Strong from top position. He is going to have a big strength advantage over Ziam. I like the chances of Mike Davis taking Ziam down and maybe even locking him in an arm triangle. Davis pulled it off in his last fight against Natan Levy, who was known as a relatively good grappler. He's known for decent jiu-jitsu. Ziam's definitely got better striking. Ziam's more dangerous than, but Natan Levy, crafty on the ground. I'm trying to compare skill sets, right? On the ground, Levy's not too bad. Striking wise, yeah, Ziam's way cleaner, way more powerful. But Faraz Ziam's grappling is okay. Defensively, it's okay. I mean, it's there, but he's not like a super physically strong guy. He's gotten in better shape. He's gotten stronger over the years. But he's dealing with the beast, man. I know Beast Boy. It's ironic I'm calling him a beast, but Mike Davis is that underrated beast that people always forget about because he's just not active. He tore his bicep a while ago. If he comes back looking similar to what we've seen in the past, I really think he's going to have his way with Ziam. Ziam's coming off the big win against Frivola, but when you really look at Frivola, he's knockout or bust a lot of the time. There's a lot of flaws to his game. Ziam used his technical skills in striking, fought off takedowns, and got a violent knee knockout. It was impressive for sure. But I think Mike Davis can give Ziam a bit of a veteran lesson in a way. But it's like Ziam's got more UFC fights. Davis has been on the roster, I feel like, forever. I think Davis by sub. On the feet, it's interesting, right? Because Ziam has a very poised and technical, upright kickboxing style. He picks his shots well. He's accurate. But on the ground, as much as his defensive grappling has improved, I'm not sure that he's stopping every takedown from Davis. Or if Davis is on top of him, I think there's a real good chance he could choke him out. At the very least, grind out a win. I'm going Mike Davis for the W. I got to pick him. Well-rounded tool set with definitely more physicality, stronger fighter, and better grappling. And I think Davis's striking can do well with Ziam. I don't see him getting the shit kicked out of him on the feet either. I'm going Mike Davis, man. In the aspects of the game, he's the better wrestler. He's the better grappler. And I can't even confidently say Ziam's the better striker. Davis is good. Mike Davis for the W. And he's a close money favorite at minus 142. The reason for that, you know, as much as skill I'm talking about he's shown, it's not surprising that he's minus 142 because he's not actively fighting. He doesn't have a win over Matt Frivola last fight, right? Ziam, you see him all the time. And we've seen improvements in Ziam as well. But I don't forget about Terrence McKinney destroying him in one round. He's been out-grappled. He's had some matchups that he hasn't fought somebody with that type of grappling strength. Davis is minus 142, Ziam plus 122. I don't really love an over-under, but I'll say under, plus 180 if Davis can lock up that arm triangle. But we've seen Davis comfortable winning fights, take decisions. So wouldn't blow my mind if he gets it on the cards. But I am going to pick Mike Davis to win. And let's hope that if he does go out and win, we see him more than one time this year. Because at 32, it's like now or never to see if he can really burst into the top 15. The promise is there for sure. And I think, you know, he's live to do it. If he beats Ziam, it could be a top 15 fight next. So we're going Mike Davis. And I think submission is a live outcome. Let's go. Mike Davis for the dub. Next fight, we have Terrence McKinney versus Damir Hadžović. The pick has got to be Terrence McKinney, but I cannot say that without a bit of panic just hitting me right in the chest as I do. Because Terrence McKinney has a questionable fight IQ and gas tank. Round 1, he's sensational. 2 and 3, we don't even see it much. It's a rarity. And last fight, I know Ribovics killed him. Esteban Ribovics knocked him out with a head kick in like 30 seconds or less, bro. It was lightning speed. I think 27 seconds. It was violent. But Terrence McKinney still has good explosive and precise striking, and he's going to have a big speed advantage over Hadžović. Hadžovic's one of those like slower, plodding, Thai-esque brawlers. He throws looping shots. He's a brawling style of fighter. Has okay grappling, but like is not good really at grappling. Quick sub loss to Moicano. Absolutely dominated by Jacasey on the ground. His most recent win is against Yancy Medeiros, man. Yancy Medeiros been out of the UFC for a long time now. He's been fighting, what, Bellator? I don't even know if he's still signed with them. 3.5 years ago. He hasn't fought in 2.5 years when Jacasey won every round against him. Terrence McKinney, at the least, is active. Now, his wins, as of recent, have been against some of the worst guys on the roster, like Mike Breeden. I guess not worst guy. He beat Anshul Jubli. And what was it after that? Brendan Marodi, who shouldn't even been there. But when McKinney's on, he's a savage. And I could see him stunning Hadžović with a quick start, right? With Hadžović being out 2.5 years, it could take him a while to get started, whereas McKinney is guns blazing from the get-go. Bell rings, ding, ding, started up. McKinney's going after him. And I think Hadžović could get stumped with that early pressure. And I think McKinney could pull off a KO. I think he could also win this fight by submission. If he hurts Hadžović and then jumps his back and chokes him out. Hadžović doesn't have like the fast twitch abilities of McKinney. There is a massive gap in true athleticism. Hadžovic's tough. Hadžović can bang long. His gas tank's not bad. He'll mix it up until the end. He's got heart. He's got heart, but he's not super precise. Doesn't really have any elite skills. He's a tough fighter, right? If McKinney's losing this one, I think he's looking at the walking paper, right? This is kind of like towards the end of the line to see if McKinney's actually got the goods. At 30 now, this should be the best McKinney we've ever seen. At one point, it seemed like he was bursting his way to the rankings lightning speed. Now things have kind of taken a fall. But still, 1-2 in his last 3. A Ribovics loss is forgivable. Ribovics is very good. Other losses are against good competition. Nazim Sadikov is decent. Ismail Bonfim is very dangerous. Definitely those guys more upside than a Damir Hadžović at 38 who hasn't fought in 2.5 years. So we're going McKinney to win. I don't think Hadžović has a great chance. He has more of a chance to survive a 10-8 round 1. McKinney gasses, Hadžović TKOs him. So if McKinney goes out there, blows his wad, beating the shit out of Hadžović in round 1, but Hadžović survives, then danger zone for Terrence McKinney, because outside of the first round, I worry about him. I hope he's getting better. Right now, I think he's working with the Fusion XL guys. So he's training with like Lucas Alexander, who's on the card, and also Mike Davis, which similar size, good bodies to work with. Guys that are definitely a lot quicker and explosive than Hadžović. But it's just Hadžović got that dog toughness. But McKinney should wreck him, okay? McKinney should wreck him. If McKinney doesn't wreck him, he's wrecked himself. It's time to take a step back. McKinney's going to win. Come on. Minus 400. Terrence McKinney needs to beat Damir Hadžović. Plus 330 for Hadžović. I just see this weird scenario where if McKinney does great in round 1, completely falls apart in round 2 and gets TKO'd. I just have that fear. But I do think he is so much more precise, so much more explosive. He looks so much better when he's out there fighting than a Hadžović does. But sometimes the better guy doesn't win. It's the dog inside. So we shall see. Over 1.5 is plus 185. If it goes over 1.5, it's because Hadžovic's that tough. He is tough, but he's 38. He hasn't fought in 2.5 years. Been knocked out once before. Been submitted in the first round before. I think Terrence McKinney could do some damage here. And hey, listen, maybe McKinney really shows maturity. And if Terrence McKinney goes out there and gets like a 3rd round TKO and fights smart and like outpoints Hadžović, then that is going to be McKinney 2.0. Then we know it's an evolution. But I think there's a real chance that he blitzes Hadžović early and finishes him, and then the question marks will still remain. But we shall see. McKinney for the W is my pick, even though the favorite status is crazy wide. He's a huge favorite. Let's jump to the next one. Featured prelim of the night. We got Shamil Gaziev versus Thomas Petersen. I love this. This is like the blob heavyweight championship. The worst physiques at heavyweight face off. Who will take the title home? I'm picking Shamil Gaziev. Okay? I think Shamil Gaziev has such a striking advantage. I know Thomas Petersen, oh man, he boxed up Mo Usman last time in the 2nd and 3rd round. Bro, Shamil Gaziev is better than that. It's like Shamil Gaziev has eaten a lot of BS because of the Rozenstruik loss, but Rozenstruik is a high-level, calculated striker with a ton of kickboxing fights. Thomas Petersen is just a hard-nosed wrestler, man. He's just a hard-nosed wrestler. That's it. And Shamil Gaziev's got good wrestling, too. At the very least, I feel like Gaziev's takedown defense holds up, and his striking's a lot better than Petersen's. Petersen is relentless. He's going to keep coming forward, but Gaziev can box him up for sure. We saw Jamal Pogues box him up. We saw him stop some takedowns. Now, Gaziev, I think, is definitely a better wrestler than that level, defensively especially, but maybe even offensively. I won't be surprised if Gaziev is shooting takedowns in this fight, but I will say I feel like Petersen's takedown defense could give Gaziev some trouble. Like, I hope Gaziev is not looking at this fight in training camp saying, I'm just going to take this guy down and smash him. If he does that, incredible. But I hope that's not his only game plan, because let's be real, Thomas Petersen can wrestle for sure. He's got decent enough striking to survive. But if Gaziev mixes the wrestling threat in with the striking, he is going to piece Thomas Petersen up. He is going to bust Thomas Petersen up so bad on the feet. Gaziev is actually pretty good with his straight shots. He's kind of quick for like one of the fatter heavyweights. I'm not saying he's a quick heavyweight. Both guys have kind of throwback builds, but Gaziev, a little more evolved, a little higher output. Like I said, a little quicker, more technically sound. It's just you're not going to blast double leg Thomas Petersen and just beat the hell out of him. I think it's super low likelihood chance of that happening. Petersen can wrestle. Striking's not great. Skills are not great. I think his gas tank is okay. Gaziev, I guess you have to question the gas tank a little, but this is a 3-round fight. I think he'll be fine. I'm going to say Gaziev can outstrike Petersen. I think he could even win the clinch battle as far as wrestling goes, but I feel like it'll be harder than anticipated to take down a Petersen and actually beat the hell out of him. Really get some ground and pound off. I don't think it's going to be easy. Petersen's going to be stubborn. He won't want to get ground and pounded. He'd rather get pieced up on the feet. He doesn't want to get out-wrestled. I'm saying Gaziev, and I'm kind of thinking decision is live. Petersen's got a chin enough on him. He got knocked out by, Where's Waldo? Round 3, Where's Waldo stopped him. That was all the way back in 2022 outside of the UFC. Gaziev's got good volume. He can definitely outstrike him. But does he put him away? It's not like he got viciously flatlined. It was more like an accumulation of strikes from Waldo. The damage started piling up. Gaziev could do the same. I think Gaziev wins. I think decision. If it's a finish, I feel like it's later. If he blasted Petersen in the first round, like a Khamzat Chimaev style ground and pound smash, I'd be kind of shocked, actually. I feel like Thomas and Petersen, he puts a decent effort out there. All right. He at least puts a little bit of respect on his own name. He loses the fight. He's busted up. He's bleeding at the end. But I think he's live to go the full 3. I mean, Gaziev's got W's over Dontel Mays by decision, right? He's able to control Mays, win some wrestling sequences, outstrike him a bit. He didn't look great in that fight, though. Lost then Rozenstruik. And before that, yeah, he wrecked Boudet. But Boudet's terrible. Boudet is terrible. I think that Shamil Gaziev can beat Thomas Petersen, but you got to put a little respect on Petersen's name, man. Chandler Cole, he made easy work out of him, and he's a contender. He's a Ultimate Fighter vet, and Petersen a Contender Series winner. Mo Usman win, then obviously that Jamal Pogues loss. I think Gaziev's winning. Gaziev winning, but how easy is it? Hard to say. I think later stage finish or decision. Minus 370 for Gaziev with Petersen at plus 305. Let's see here. Does it go over a round and a half, minus 190? I agree with that. I feel like it probably goes over a round and a half. I think Gaziev will attack early. Petersen and him will be tied up in the clinch a bit. Gaziev will do more damage. He'll find openings. He might eventually get Thomas Petersen down, but I feel like Petersen's definitely got good hips. Petersen will hit him with some weird punches, but I think Gaziev lands some big ones. And I do think there's a chance that Gaziev batters Petersen enough so to get a stoppage, maybe, late second round or into the third. So we're going with Shamil Gaziev. Definite pick for the win. I'm not picking against the king of the blobs, bro. I'm not picking against the, melted physique champion here and Shamil Gaziev. But I just think Thomas Petersen. I'm going Jordan Petersen, bro. Mix him up with that motivational speaker guy. I think Thomas is tough enough, all right? He'll channel some Jordan Petersen quotes in the midst of his fight. And he'll be like, I'm the best version of I can be of myself. And he'll put it all on the line. But ultimately, Shamil Gaziev is going to win, man. I see him getting a dub. He's not falling off that quick. Come on now. Next fight on the card brings us to our main card opener. If you guys haven't, make sure you smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. Let's talk fight number 1 on the main card. Muhammad Naimov versus Kaan Ofli. It's got to be Muhammad Naimov. Kaan Ofli is not showing up to Saudi Arabia and beating Muhammad Naimov. I don't see it. Ofli's got tough wrestling, though. He's an Ultimate Fighter finalist. He got viciously chinned by Myron Santos, though. Bad KO loss. Bad. But on the show, he was wrestling good. He beat Nathan Fletcher. He's got good control. He's strong from top. His striking is not bad. It's rudimentary, right? Essentially, I'm saying it's simple. It's basic. It's not exceptional. He doesn't have crazy explosiveness. He doesn't have crazy combinations. He's decent at striking. He offers valid enough striking to at the least survive, and he'll outstrike some of the guys that just really can't strike well. Whereas Naimov has that well-rounded skill set. He's got real good wrestling as well. Not elite wrestling. It's not like I'm saying he's straight out of the, Tajik Olympic wrestling team. But he's got good takedowns. He's got good control. He's got explosive striking. He's very mobile on the feet, versatile with his striking attack too, which I like. The stance switches and his speed are nice. I feel like he is too experienced and too well-versed to lose to a tough Kaan Ofli, who I do think can put a decent account for himself. There's a possibility he survives. I know he got violently chinned by Myron Santos, but Santos with a sensational counter-strike KO. Whereas when I look at Naimov, he's more going to be putting the explosiveness and pressure on you, throwing hard, be harder to find that shot. I feel like Ofli could at the very least shoot some takedowns. They tie up. There's control time. Naimov on top, not a lot of damage. Ofli might land a quick takedown, and you'll see Naimov burst up to his feet. I could see it as relatively competitive. I know Naimov's got power, though. This KO doesn't count. He's got some power. He knocked out Malarkey. Wins on, the lower level scene by KO. And you can't even shame him. This Felipe Lima loss is not bad at all. Lima's a monster. I think Naimov gets a W. I could see him fighting smart, being patient. I could see him hurting Ofli, maybe dropping him. Ofli recovers. It's not out of the realm of possibility to see a violent fight where there's a finish, but I think Naimov's definitely getting the win regardless of outcome. And we're also in Saudi Arabia. That favors Naimov even a little bit more. As far as the odds, Naimov's minus 265. I think it makes sense with his UFC experience at this point. He's been around a while. Plus 225 for Kaan Ofli. Ofli's tough, but to be honest with you, on paper, this is a step up in competition from Myron Santos. This is a guy that's more well-versed than Myron Santos. Might not be as scary and pure striking, but very well-rounded, in shape, and win over Nathaniel Woods. Say controversial or not, he still won the decision. Minus 200, over 2.5 probably. I think it probably goes over 2.5. I think it makes sense that Naimov's a fair size favorite. At open, he was even bigger at minus 325. It's just hard to sell me on Ofli beating him. He's going to take him down and bully him. He's going to knock him out on the feet. That doesn't seem likely at all. I think more likely, Muhammad Naimov has some striking moments, a little more elusive than Ofli on the feet. Maybe even takes down the wrestler, controls him a bit, lands some ground and pound. Good exchanges on both sides. I see a Naimov win. I'm going Muhammad Naimov for the W. I think he beats Kaan Ofli. Very live for a relatively dominant decision. But I could see a KO. Say, decision is the official call, though. I'm going to pick Naimov on the cards. I think he wins the fight. And he looks decent doing it against the Ultimate Fighter finalist. Let's keep running. Next fight. Ooh, this one is fabulous. Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira. This right here is badass matchmaking. Because Vinicius Oliveira, with the hype that he has building, the win over Ricky Simón, you could have gave him an easier fight. Could have gave him a fight, against somebody else to keep building the hype. But instead, it's like, no, we're sending you to Saudi Arabia and you're fighting Said Nurmagomedov, who's a dangerous Dagestani, not a Khabib Nurmagomedov team Dagestani. He's a dog fighter, okay? The different gym over there in Dagestan that produces some UFC talent, Zabit's from there. He does have a very good kickboxing game. Has elusive striking for sure. But the thing is, Vinicius Oliveira is a gangster, and I'm picking him to win. I'm picking Vinicius Oliveira to outdog Said Nurmagomedov. We seen Nurmagomedov outdogged by Jonathan Martinez. His hands on his knees at the end of the fight. Fight ends. He doesn't celebrate. He looks tired. He broke at the end, right? Jonathan Martinez, you could tell, wanted it more. And Lockdog has that savage mentality. He is going to be going for it, throwing chaos, throwing craziness, bringing pressure, exploding in and out of positions till the very end of the fight. Said Nurmagomedov, he doesn't necessarily gas out. I'm not saying he's definitely running out of gas in round 3, but he slows a bit. He's got good takedowns and trips, and he's got good back takes, and he's got elusive submission skills for sure. I just feel like Vinicius Oliveira is one of those tricky matchups because he's hard to contain and control, and he's also really hard to read. Oliveira has a very unorthodox striking flow, and you got to have high praise and hold him in high regard for a damn second UFC fight, beating Ricky Simón in dominant fashion. Had Ricky Simón confused on the feet, had him even hurt at the end of the fight. Vinicius Oliveira has legit knockout power. His hands are low, so his striking is very hard to read. Now, that leaves him open for shots. Said has good striking, and he's got precise striking, but he's not a knockout puncher. I think Said could also get out-muscled a bit in this fight. He'll look to land some takedowns, and maybe he gets some trips, but I see Oliveira getting up. I think Oliveira is going to be exploding and winning the late parts of rounds. And I think Oliveira can hit him with the bigger punches, and I feel like he's going to be relentless. I believe in Vinicius Oliveira. I like Said Nurmagomedov. Jonathan Martinez got him 2 fights ago in a real close one. Could have went either way. And then I think about Oliveira's style. I'm like, okay, unorthodox striking flow, right? A lot of times, tricky fights for precise and technical strikers like a Said Nurmagomedov will be these guys that are chaotic, and they do nothing by the book because it's hard to read these awkward strikes. But Oliveira is accurate, he's effective, and he's a big bantamweight too. He's taller than Said Nurmagomedov, who's pretty tall. 5'8" bantamweight's a good size, man. Current bantamweight champ is Merab. He's 5'5", 5'6". I'm going to say Vinicius Oliveira takes a hard-fought decision. I see this as a crazy fight. I see competitive moments. I think of the whole card, this is one of the most lit matchups because it's a legit battle of Said Nurmagomedov, who's been right at the top 15 for a long time. Lost to only Hani Barcelos earlier in his career. Right, I guess Barcelos really is the prospect buster. And then he lost recently to Jonathan Martinez in a back and forth. Though he's the Nurmagomedov, this is not the Nurmagomedov wrestling that you know from Team Khabib. He's got decent grappling, sure, but he's more of a kickboxer. And I think Vinicius Oliveira with his grappling base is going to be tricky to deal with in grappling entanglements. I don't see him just getting bullied on the ground at all. If he's taken down, I see him getting up. I think in the striking, he's got more power, definitely more awkward. Said, more slick and technical. But at the end of the day, with Oliveira's relentless pressure, I see him making Said uncomfortable. I see when they tie up in the clinch, Vinicius actually doing pretty well. He's strong. And I see him putting it on the gas pedal until the very end of the fight. And I don't feel that same level of confidence where I can be sure that Nurmagomedov is going to secure the win in round 3. If it's 1-1 in round 3, the last 30 seconds, I feel like Said is more likely the tired one. And Oliveira is throwing caution to the wind and chasing the finish. You got to go with Vinicius Oliveira. You got to go with Lock Dog. And again, he's an underdog. He's an underdog. Plus 145 for Lock Dog. I'm going with Vinicius Oliveira. Minus 170 Nurmagomedov. You opened up at plus 250. I find that crazy. I get it. Said's got a lot of experience, but second UFC fight, beating Ricky Simone, that's pretty badass for Vinicius Oliveira. The over 2.5 is minus 185. Good chance we're going into the later stages. Good chance we got a 3-round back and forth war. And I think the chance is Vinicius Oliveira secures at least 2 out of the 3 rounds and finishes every round strong. I'm going Vinicius Oliveira, Lock Dog, to beat Said Nurmagomedov from Dagestan. I'm thinking that Oliveira is going to rep Brazil nicely here. You got to be a fan of Oliveira's game right now. And I just got to go with the momentum. I feel like he's got something special. He's got a unique flow that stands out. And I think he's beaten the very good Said Nurmagomedov in a competitive one. Let's keep running. Next fight. Featured fight of the night. Sergey Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Banger at heavyweight. I'm going with Pavlovich. I think Pavlovich is going to chin Rozenstruik. You know what this is going to be? This is going to be one of those y'all must have forgot moments, right? Sergey Pavlovich, 2 losses in a row, gets chinned against Aspinall, but he did kind of hurt him early in the fight, but then he got flattened. Gets outstruck by Volkov dominantly for 3 rounds. And it's like, you know, people starting to think maybe Pavlovich is not as good as advertised. He is a devastating boxer. His punching power is unreal. One of the hardest hitters in the UFC, bar none, okay? Sergey Pavlovich can box well, and he's got good reads with his hands. He also can start fights very fast and close distance well normally, okay? Volkov is freakishly tall at 6'7". Volkov made easy work of Rozenstruik when they fought. Rozenstruik feels like it was an early stoppage. He was badly hurt. I think Pavlovich is going to put the pedal to the metal and bring pressure to Rozenstruik, close the gap. And in the boxing range, you see reach advantage for Pavlovich by 6 inches. And he's the better boxer from the punching range. Boxer in general. Yellow zone, definitely loving Pavlovich's hands. Red zone, I'm loving it too. Rozenstruik has good low kicks, and he's good at picking his shots, right? We saw a patient Jairzinho Rozenstruik showcase, right? Tai Tuivasa win, where he won a decision. It was not a split decision. It was a dominant win. That was crazy that one judge scored it for Tuivasa. Picked Tuivasa apart. Dominant win. Win against Shamil Gaziev. Picked him apart, stopped him in the corner after round number 4, right? Picks his shots well. Good technical point kickboxing versus death touch knockout power boxing, but also a crafty skill set. I expect Rozenstruik to throw leg kicks and get caught with something over the top. He needs to be careful. You think, oh, this leg kick Pavlovich. Bro, unless you have the range on Pavlovich, you throw a leg kick, you are leaving yourself highly susceptible to getting flatlined. And I think Pavlovich is going to flatline Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And I expect the hype to come back on him a little bit. Pavlovich was that guy for a while. And I think that he beats Rozenstruik. Now, to be fair, I've been a big Pavlovich believer for a long time. But even I picked Volkov over him because they trained together and the size difference. This matchup here, he's taller than Rozenstruik, got a little more reach than Rozenstruik. We've seen Rozenstruik chinned. I think Pavlovich finds the death touch. Death touch. Pavlovich, violent KO, sleeps Jairzinho Rozenstruik in epic fashion. And I feel like we're all going to be pretty hype on Pavlovich come Sunday. I think the hype's going to build back. Minus 305 for Pavlovich, plus 255 for Rozenstruik. I don't disagree with those odds. There's just too much of an ability to box with Pavlovich to overlook. While the under is minus 220. I assume Pavlovich puts him out in the first, but it wouldn't be crazy if it was a second round KO. But more likely it's in the first round. I think Pavlovich is touching Rozenstruik's chin. I don't think Rozenstruik can keep Pavlovich off of him, right? That's something Rozenstruik easily was able to do with a Tuivasa or a Gaziev. They don't generate the force that Pavlovich does, especially not in a technical manner, right? Tuivasa has power because he wings his whole body into shots. Pavlovich just touches you and it's like you're getting hit by bricks. Sergey Pavlovich by KO. The Russian knockout artist is going to start a little bit of a second title run. I still think he can mix it up with a lot of the heavyweights in the UFC. Striking power is unreal. And I think Jairzinho Rozenstruik is a sitting duck to a violent knockout. Pavlovich, Violent KO. I love that he's fighting on this card. And I'm excited to see him get back to his winning ways, man. Sergey Pavlovich, knockout win. We are excited. I'm excited. You all should be excited. These 2 wins are quality for Rozenstruik. I want to give him some respect. Jailton made an easy sub, and then Volkov chinned him. I think Pavlovich chins him in the first round, too. Pavlovich getting the hype back. Hasn't won since the Blades win a year and 9 months ago. But I still think you got to respect that Blades win. He wrecked him easy. Sergey Pavlovich, I'm saying knockout. First round. First round knockout. Pavlovich gets the hype back on his side. Next fight is our co-main event. This is a banger at 185. Shara Magomedov, Shara Bullet versus Michael Venom Page. I'm going with Shara Bullet. I think Shara Bullet can beat Michael Venom Page because of his craftiness in striking. He will use his legs to attack the base of Page and will actually have more success than many do. Right? Normally, MVP's awkward, wide stance, extremely hard to deal with. But he hasn't fought a Shara Bullet, and it's at middleweight. At 170, it's a little bit different. But his wins are not bad, right? Outside of the UFC, violent Ws. And a Kevin Holland win most recently for him. Kevin Holland has completely fallen off, to be fair. Kevin Holland win for him is not bad. He outpointed him and won a decision. Thing is, I think Shara Bullet's the ability with the legs, the ability to just throw nasty body kicks, chop at the legs nicely, right? Shara Bullet is super crafty on the feet, and he's incredibly slick, and he has knockout power too. I can see him hurting Michael Venom Page and turning this into a wild fight. But X factor that I think people might not think of is Shara Bullet still got Dagestan blood. As much as he's not known for his wrestling, it wouldn't blow my mind if he surprises MVP with some trips. Maybe a throw, gets on top a little bit, mixes the fight up, doesn't just want to play just kickboxing, but likes to mix the whole game together. It wouldn't be crazy at all. Shara Bullet, too, with his elusivity in striking, right? What I see is as Page looks to use the counter straight that he normally does, his opponents will attack with legs or bring in with some striking pressure, and then he'll get out of range and burst into range. I think Shara Bullet's reflexes are super on point, that he'll read those shots, and he'll even be able to find counters from there. The reason I say that is to pull off the double spinning back fist KO that he did against Armin Petrosian takes an extremely special amount of timing and a gift of reflexes. Not everybody can pull something like that off, no matter how many years they train. Shara Bullet is elite level in his timing. Is he elite level yet? We'll find out. His striking certainly seems to be up there. And as awkward and tricky with the hands low style as Michael Venom Page can be, I feel like Shara Bullet's going to take a win home. I think he'll do some damage. I think he wins, I think a decision. Can he catch MVP? He could definitely catch MVP. We've seen MVP caught and knocked out one time. Douglas Lima did it to him years back. Counter shot. And Shara Bullet's got that type of explosiveness where I could see him countering MVP as well. MVP's 37, almost 38. He's up in weight. He's taking on a dangerous Dagestani kickboxer who's got a ton of hype on him right now. I'm going with Shara Bullet to win. I don't know why I want to say left hook might actually do the job and get this fight finished with, but, you know, as far as chasing a method of victory, if you're betting, this fight right here, good luck. We'll see what the odds are like. Shara Bullet's minus 200. Page is plus 170. I like Shara Bullet's chances. I know he's the favorite, right? And people are probably like, man, I want that Michael Venom Page underdog. Look at his precision from the outside. I get it. Live to go over at minus 240, but it almost makes too much sense, right? Shara gets a competitive split decision, or he gets it 29-28, and people after the fight claim that it was the Saudi Arabian bias. I feel like that makes almost too much sense, that the nonsensical prediction would be Shara Bullet flatlines Michael Venom Page with a death punch and gets a violent KO and builds a ton of hype for knocking out one of the trickiest strikers we've ever seen. Because Michael Venom Page has the most unique style in the game right now. He's got freakishly long arms too, but he's not naturally at 185. I have to question his wrestling. I could see Shara surprising him with trips and throws, like I said earlier. I'm going with Shara Bullet to get the win. More UFC experience. Seems to be on the path to the elite of the weight class, whereas MVP is on the path to fun fights. He can still drop back down to 170 and fight Wonderboy after this. Where Shara Bullet has made calls for Israel Adesanya, and he wants to fight the elites of the middleweight division. Losing to a Michael Venom Page can't happen right now. And I think Shara Bullet lives up to the hype. I'm going Shara Bullet for the victory. He's taking out Michael Venom Page It could be a death punch knockout, or it could be a pretty tooth and nail back and forth kickboxing war. Either way, I think Shara Magomedov will be more accurate in striking on Michael Venom Page than anyone he's fought since the Douglas Lima fight years and years and years ago. Not the rematch, the first fight. So give me Shara Bullet for the W. I'm picking him in the co-main event. He's taking out MVP. Let's jump to the main event. If you guys have not yet, smash the likes. If you're new, subscribe. Israel Adesanya looks to bounce back after 2 straight championship losses and take out Nasruddin Imavov, but I don't think so. I'm picking Nasruddin Imavov, guys. I broke this fight down for the first time when it first was announced. And, I have more time to really sit on my feelings about it. And I just keep thinking Nasruddin Imavov is going to be relentless. He seems to come on strong later in fights. We saw that against Cannonier. We even saw it against Brendan Allen. He's a really quality striker. He's got good kickboxing. No, he doesn't have the accolades of Adesanya. And prime Adesanya was a one-of-one as far as his timing and his ability to counter. But this is not prime Adesanya. We got to live in the real world. He's lost 3 out of his last 4. Took in damage in those fights too, right? His pinnacle win was the Alex Pereira rematch in MMA, and he knocked out Alex Pereira, his foe forever, the man who had ran him out of kickboxing and then came to the UFC and took his belt. He beat him once. He beat him the one time. That was his pinnacle. Sean Strickland destroyed him. Dricus du Plessis beat him in a war, and he finished him in a war. I think Nasruddin Imavov is going to give him trouble too. Nasruddin's boxing is underrated, okay? On the inside, Nasruddin Imavov has tricky hands, man. Tricky hands. He's got a nasty left hook. He's got snapping speed, and his ground game is not bad. Does he shock Adesanya with the takedown? It wouldn't blow my mind. He's still got Dagestan blood, regardless of him being more of a French kickboxer in MMA. Adesanya, in his prime, known for extremely good takedown defense, but I do think his grappling more recently has been slightly exposed a bit. He's vulnerable on the ground. He is not an elite caliber or nor really a high caliber grappler at all. When the fight gets there, I could see him in trouble, even with a Nasruddin Imavov who's known for his stand-up. Prime Adesanya thrives with space, and his counters as you enter his range, impeccable. At this point, I don't know if they're still there. I don't think he has the same rhythm. His feinting skills are still nice. He still has devastating kicks, but he struggles with pressure. And I think Nasruddin Imavov is going to look to pressure him and eliminate that gap of space, right? Yellow, red zone, right? Mid and the close range. Imavov with his hands thrives in this fight. Now, he's got good teeps. He's got decent kicks of his own, but his kicks don't match Adesanya's. Adesanya is a lot quicker and snappier with his kicks. Maybe a teep could work for Imavov, but getting into a leg kick and head kick battle for him, unlikely against Adesanya. In a boxing back and forth with some clinch work, out-muscling Izzy a bit, making it a dirtier fight, Nasruddin Imavov does thrive. I'm going to pick Nasruddin Imavov to beat Adesanya. I'm feeling a decision. I don't think decision is a wild call. Imavov not known for the submission, but I do think he could stun Izzy at some point and blitz him with a wide array of shots. It really comes down to how far past his best days is Adesanya. That's my ultimate question mark that I actually have in this fight here. It's how far past his best days is Adesanya. If you look, right, he had the win over Jared Cannonier, where he was able to pick him apart 2.5 years ago and cruise to a decision. And then Pereira came into MMA and shocked him. And then he beat Pereira in the rematch. Like I said, that was his pinnacle. Then he loses to Sean Strickland. He gets dropped early. He loses a lot of the fight. He gets backed up. He's uncomfortable. He doesn't look like himself anymore. Tooth and nail, back and forth with DDP, but still hurt in that fight and then choked out in that fight. Nasruddin Imavov, you dig back, he went to war 5 rounds with Strickland on a short notice fight up and wait for Strickland stepping in. Weird scenario for Imavov. Then Chris Curtis fight, no contest, but he was looking good. Beat Dolidze. It was a decision. He deserved it. It wasn't a questionable one, right? It shouldn't have been a draw. I think he deserved the win. Completely polar opposite style with Dolidze and Adesanya as well. And then you look, Jared Cannonier, he finishes Cannonier. He starts finding his range, right? Little later, end of the second round, into the third, and Imavov gets better. And in a 5-round fight, that comes in handy. Loses the first round with Brendan Allen's wrestling, but then 2 and 3 takes over, wins the fight, picks him apart. But again, different style completely from Adesanya. Adesanya, purest striking game that uses his grappling purely as a defensive tactic. Imavov might mix it up and do more MMA-style fighting here. He might look to time a trip and get on top of Izzy. I don't think that just because Imavov is known as a pure kickboxer, he doesn't decide to give Adesanya headaches with takedown attempts and threats. I think Imavov puts Adesanya on the back foot a bit. I think he wins close rounds. I think he lands decent shots on the feet. I'm sure that he's caught with something, but I have a hard time seeing Adesanya chin Imavov. And I think if you're not chinning him, you got to keep him off you for 5 rounds. He's in your face, throwing heavy hands. Imavov is 28 years old, man. He's young. He's primed. About to be 29, but he's primed right now. And we've seen him blossom in front of our eyes over the past couple of years. I think Nasruddin Imavov has true potential at middleweight to challenge for the belt. Now, beating the champ, hard to say. We'll see after this one. But I do think he pulls off a hard-fought win over one of the GOATs of the middleweight division. Past his prime, Israel Adesanya loses to Nasruddin Imavov this Saturday. I'm going with Imavov. Now, as far as the odds, Adesanya is the favorite, minus 155. I'm not surprised. Opened up at minus 200. Not surprised. There's still hope by a lot of people that Izzy's got the ability to get back in the title picture. I guess I just don't have that same hope. 3 out of your last 4 losses. Win over Pereira was great, but he was still getting chopped apart and bullied early in that fight. Win over Cannonier was a point-fighting snooze fest. To be honest with you, his most recent wins, you can say, oh, but I'm coping now with the Pereira fight. I'm not giving him enough credit. He was losing up until he caught Pereira, just to be real. Knockout shot, beautiful. He was losing. Plus 135 underdog, even up to plus 150 for Imavov. I don't have a whole slew of props. I thought I would, but maybe not. Over 4.5, minus 200. Don't love it right now. I would like to see what the props for each fighter look like. I want to see what a Imavov decision looks like. I do think it's live to go over 4.5. But like I said, it really depends upon how far is Izzy away from his best days. For me, Izzy's best days are not this Cannonier win, are not this Whitaker win. Really not even the Vettori win. The best Adesanya was the one leading up to the Blachowicz fight. That was a long time ago, 2021. He lost to Jan. Then he came back, he dominates Vettori, okay. I honestly feel like if you rewatch that Whitaker fight, you'll be like, damn, that was a lot closer than I remember. That could have went either way. Whitaker was tooth and nail with them in that second fight. And that's something that completely gets overlooked. People forget about how close that was. I think Nasruddin Imavov can get him. I'll predict that he does. If Imavov had a more well-renowned submission game, it'd be easier to pick him. But you look at his high-level fights, hasn't shown the submission skills. Outside of the UFC is where he's shown the submissions. But wrecked Edmund Shabazian on the ground, right? He still has ability to mix it up. And I think that people may fall victim to an illusion that Nasruddin Imavov is just a striker because that's where he thrives at his highest caliber. But in a fight against Israel Adesanya, testing his wrestling a bit, testing his clinch game a bit, making it a dirtier fight, it really does come in handy. And it will not surprise me if Nasruddin Imavov chooses to mix things up and make it more of an MMA fight. So I'm going to go with Imavov. I'm feeling decision right now. I'm feeling decision, but I don't know. I hear weird whispers that he could catch him on the inside, take him to the ground, sub him, and shock everybody. He could end up getting a volume TKO because Adesanya doesn't have it anymore. But I really think the outcome of method of victory depends on how far away from his best days is Izzy. I feel like confident decision Imavov. Him getting a knockout of Adesanya, him finishing him on the ground, then that tells me like Izzy really is steps away from his prime. We'll see. Nasruddin Imavov, though, talented prospect, getting the pick from me. I'm calling him. I'm going Imavov in the main event to become a true top contender and take out Israel Adesanya. I'm doing it, guys. That's the call. That is UFC Saudi Arabia. I'm excited. I feel hyped for this card. I feel dialed in for this card. This is a banger. UFC 211 was great, but the Saudi Arabia card is best fight night we've seen in a while, man. It's up there with like UFC Macau level fight night. Maybe better than that, to be honest. I got daily content coming, chat. Everybody watch. I just say, guys, I'm not live right now, but I'll be doing 2-a-day lives Monday to Friday, so make sure you tune into that. Videos every day, so keep it locked in on the channel. Hit subscribe. Turn the post notifications on. Don't just leave it on personalized. Put it on all. You don't want to miss a video. I got a lot of heat dropping every single day of the week. Make sure you guys smash the likes and let me know what you think of the picks in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. Who you picking? Who you picking? And if you got nothing to say in the comments, just enjoy the content as always. Drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Excited to have 9 weeks straight of UFC. You guys can't get rid of this face. I'm here every day anyways. But plus UFC, more content than ever. Keep it locked in. Thanks for watching, people. I'll see you on the next one. Much love. Peace out.